Welcome to Drift Away Stories. I'm here to take you on a peaceful journey through time and adventure, where you become the hero of history's greatest moments. Get comfortable, close your eyes, and let your mind drift away as we explore worlds beyond your imagination. If these stories help you find rest and escape, consider subscribing for more adventures, and let me know in the comments where in the world you're listening from tonight. Now, let's begin your journey. The iron shackles around your wrists bite into your skin as the slave trader's cart lurches through another pothole on the dusty road leading to Rome. You are Marcus Brutus Calvus, though that name belongs to a life that ended 3 days ago when Roman soldiers burned your village to the ground and dragged you away in chains. 22 years old, born free in the mountains of Germania, you had been a blacksmith's son, with calloused hands and a strong back, planning to marry the miller's daughter when spring arrived. Now you are property, human livestock being transported to market in the greatest city in the world. The journey has been a nightmare of cramped conditions, meager rations, and the constant reminder that your life now belongs to whoever offers the highest price. Around you in the wooden cage, 24 other men share your fate. Some warriors captured in the same raid that destroyed your village, others debtors and criminals from various parts of the empire. The smell of unwashed bodies, fear, and despair creates an atmosphere that makes each breath a conscious effort. Your captors speak little, but you have learned enough Latin during the journey to understand their occasional conversations. They are professional slave traders, experienced in evaluating human merchandise and determining which markets will offer the best prices for their cargo. From their discussions, you gather that Rome's appetite for gladiators has increased dramatically since the emperor's recent military victories, creating opportunities for slaves with the physical attributes that make good arena fighters. The realization that you are being taken to fight for the entertainment of Roman crowds fills you with a mixture of horror and strange anticipation. Death in the arena would at least be more honorable than a lifetime of backbreaking labor in mines or fields, and there are rumors that successful gladiators can eventually earn their freedom. But the stories you have heard about what happens to men in the amphitheaters suggest that survival requires more than physical strength. It demands a transformation from civilized human being to something more primal and ruthless. As the cart approaches Rome's outskirts, the scale of the city becomes apparent, even to someone who has never traveled beyond his native valley. The roads widen and improve, carrying increasing traffic of merchants, soldiers, and travelers from every corner of the known world. Aqueducts stretch across the landscape like stone bridges built for giants, carrying fresh water to feed the 1,000,000 people who make their home within the city's walls. The very air seems different here, heavy with smoke from countless fires and filled with the distant sound of human activity on a scale you never imagined possible. Your first glimpse of Rome itself defies everything your provincial upbringing prepared you to understand. The city stretches beyond the horizon, a vast sprawl of buildings rising in tiers from the Tiber River toward hills crowned with temples and palaces. The walls that protect this metropolitan marvel are higher than any structure in your homeland, and the gates through which your cart passes are guarded by soldiers whose equipment and bearing speak of professional competence that far exceeds anything you encountered during your village's final, desperate battle. The slave market occupies a large square near the center of the city, where buyers and sellers conduct their business with the casual efficiency of any other commercial transaction. You and your fellow captives are unloaded from the cart like any other cargo, inspected by potential buyers who examine your teeth, muscles, and bearing with the same attention they might give to purchasing a horse or ox. The dehumanizing process strips away the last vestiges of your former identity, reducing you to a collection of physical attributes that determine your monetary value. The slave trader, a grizzled veteran of this business named Gaius Lucretius, moves among his merchandise with practiced efficiency, pointing out the qualities that make each man suitable for different types of work. When he reaches you, his evaluation takes longer than most, his experienced eye noting details that escape the casual observer. "This one has the build for arena work," he announces to a small group of potential buyers who have gathered around your cage. "Look at the shoulders, the reach, the way he carries himself despite the chains. Germanic blood. They fight with passion rather than just technique. Properly trained, he could provide years of profitable entertainment." Among the buyers listening to this assessment is a man whose appearance immediately marks him as different from the merchants and minor officials who comprise most of the crowd. Lucius Aurelius Maximus is a lanista, a trainer and owner of gladiators, whose school has produced some of Rome's most celebrated arena fighters. His practiced gaze evaluates you with the intensity of someone who stakes his reputation and fortune on his ability to identify potential champions among the raw human material offered in the slave markets. Maximus approaches your cage with the confidence of someone accustomed to making decisions that determine other men's fates. His inspection is thorough, but not degrading. He evaluates you as a warrior rather than livestock, noting qualities that suggest you might possess the combination of physical ability and mental toughness required to survive in the arena. His questions, delivered in accented but serviceable Germanic, probe your background and experience in ways that show he understands the importance of a fighter's psychological preparation. "You were a blacksmith?" he asks, his weathered face showing approval when you nod confirmation. "Good. The muscle memory from hammerwork translates well to weapon handling, and men who have worked with fire understand that pain can be endured if the cause is worthy. Tell me, have you killed men in battle?" The question forces you to confront memories from your village's last day, the desperate fight against Roman soldiers who outnumbered your people 3-1, the weight of an axe in your hands as you tried to defend your home and family, the moment when training with weapons for hunting became something far more serious and permanent. Your honest answer that you killed 2 soldiers before being overwhelmed seems to satisfy something in the Lanista's evaluation process. The negotiation that follows demonstrates the cold arithmetic of the slave trade, where human lives are valued according to market forces and profit potential. Maximus's offer reflects his assessment that you represent a good investment, young enough to provide years of fighting if properly trained, strong enough to put on impressive displays of combat, and possessed of the intelligence needed to learn the complex skills that separate successful gladiators from mere arena fodder. When the transaction is completed and ownership of your life passes to the gladiator school, you feel a strange mixture of relief and apprehension. Relief because Maximus's reputation suggests that his fighters receive better treatment than slaves destined for mines or galleys, but apprehension because you now face the prospect of being trained to kill other men for the entertainment of crowds who view such violence as casual amusement. The journey to the gladiator school takes you through districts of Rome that showcase both the city's wealth and its contradictions. Magnificent temples and public buildings stand near tenements that house the poor in conditions little better than the slave quarters you left behind. The contrast between splendor and squalor seems to characterize everything about this urban colossus, where unimaginable riches coexist with desperate poverty, often separated by nothing more than a narrow street. The school itself occupies a substantial compound in the city's outskirts, surrounded by walls that serve both to keep gladiators inside and potential enemies outside. The facilities represent a significant investment in the business of training men to fight, practice arenas for learning combat techniques, workshops for maintaining weapons and armor, living quarters that provide adequate if Spartan accommodations for fighters who may need to stay healthy and strong for years. Your introduction to this new world begins with a medical examination conducted by the school's physician, a Greek freedman whose knowledge of anatomy exceeds that of most doctors serving wealthy Roman families. His assessment goes beyond identifying current injuries or illnesses to evaluate your potential for the physical demands that gladiatorial training will place on your body. The thoroughness of the examination reflects the economic reality that injured fighters represent lost investment rather than entertainment value. The quarters assigned to new recruits provide basic necessities without luxury: a narrow bed, storage space for personal items, and access to communal facilities for washing and eating. The accommodations are better than anything you experienced during the journey from Germania, but they also emphasize your status as valuable property rather than free men. The locks on the doors and the guards who patrol the corridors provide constant reminders that your presence here is involuntary, regardless of any benefits the training might provide. Your first meal at the school introduces you to the dietary regimen that will fuel your transformation from village blacksmith to arena fighter. The food is substantial and nutritious, designed to build muscle and endurance rather than simply prevent starvation. Meat, bread, vegetables, and wine are provided in quantities that reflect the school's investment in maintaining fighters in peak physical condition. The quality exceeds anything you ate during your final months in Germania, when Roman pressure had disrupted normal food production and distribution. The other gladiators in training represent a cross-section of the empire's diversity, men from every corner of the Roman world who have arrived at this school through various combinations of misfortune, crime, and military defeat. Some are recent captives like yourself, still adjusting to their new circumstances and struggling with the language barriers that complicate communication. Others are veterans of multiple arena appearances, their bodies bearing the scars that testify to both their survival skills and the violence that defines their existence. Among the experienced fighters, you notice a hierarchy based on proven ability and accumulated victories, rather than social origins or length of service. The most successful gladiators enjoy privileges and respect that elevate their status above ordinary slaves, though they remain property of the school regardless of their achievements. Their example suggests that excellence in this brutal profession can provide rewards that partially compensate for the loss of freedom, though the price paid in physical risk and psychological transformation appears substantial. The training regimen begins immediately, with new recruits subjected to a systematic evaluation process that determines their potential specialization within the various gladiatorial types. Your background as a blacksmith and your performance in preliminary weapons testing suggest aptitude for fighting as a mamillo, the heavily armed gladiator type that specializes in sword and shield combat. The designation carries implications for every aspect of your future training, from the weapons you will master to the types of opponents you will face in the arena. The weapons training starts with wooden implements that allow instructors to evaluate technique and potential without risking serious injury to valuable property. Your first session with a gladius, the short sword favored by Roman legions and arena fighters, reveals both natural ability and areas requiring intensive development. The balance and weight of the weapon feel familiar after years of handling heavy hammers, but the precision required for effective swordplay demands muscle memory that can only be developed through countless hours of repetitive practice. Gaius Varro, the instructor assigned to train new Mamillo fighters, proves to be a former gladiator whose survival of more than 20 arena contests gives him authority that transcends his current status as a freedman employee of the school. His teaching methods emphasize practical effectiveness over theoretical knowledge, focusing on techniques that have proven successful in actual combat rather than abstract martial arts principles. His scars provide graphic illustrations of what happens when technique fails or attention lapses during real fighting. In the arena, Varro explains during your first formal lesson, there is no second place. You win or you die, or occasionally you fight well enough that the crowd demands mercy for a defeated but courageous opponent. Everything we teach you here serves that simple reality. Survival depends on your ability to be better, faster, and more determined than the man trying to kill you. The physical conditioning that accompanies weapons training pushes your body beyond anything your previous life demanded. Running, lifting, sparring, and specialized exercises designed to develop the specific muscle groups required for different fighting styles consume most of your waking hours. The regimen transforms your blacksmith strength into something more refined and dangerous, building the stamina needed to fight effectively, even when exhaustion would normally force surrender. But the training involves more than physical preparation. Understanding the psychology of combat, learning to read an opponent's intentions and weaknesses, developing the mental toughness required to function effectively while people are trying to kill you. These skills prove as important as sword work or shield handling. The instructors emphasize that gladiatorial combat is as much performance as warfare, requiring fighters to entertain crowds while surviving encounters with skilled and desperate opponents. The social dynamics within the school create a complex environment where friendships, rivalries, and alliances develop among men who may eventually face each other in mortal combat. The shared hardships of training and the mutual understanding of what awaits in the arena create bonds that transcend the normal barriers between men of different backgrounds and cultures. Yet the ultimate purpose of the training, preparing to fight and possibly kill each other for public entertainment, casts a shadow over even the closest relationships. Among your fellow trainees, you develop particular respect for Flavius Maxentius, a former Roman legionnaire whose gambling debts resulted in his sale to the Gladiator school. His military background provides insights into combat psychology and unit tactics that prove valuable even in the individual contests that define arena fighting. His pragmatic approach to their shared situation, accepting the reality of their circumstances while working to excel within those constraints, offers a model for maintaining dignity and purpose despite the loss of freedom. Another significant relationship develops with Cassius the Thracian, a warrior from the eastern provinces whose capture followed a rebellion against Roman taxation policies. His background as a tribal champion provides expertise in fighting styles and weapon techniques unfamiliar to Roman military training, expanding your understanding of combat beyond the standardized approaches favored by the school's instructors. His stories of resistance against Roman expansion also help maintain connections to the life and values you held before becoming property of the empire. The weeks of training gradually transform both your body and your understanding of what you have become. The muscle mass developed through intensive conditioning, combined with the skills acquired through constant weapons practice, creates capabilities that far exceed anything you possessed as a village blacksmith. More significantly, the mental adjustments required to accept that your survival depends on your ability to defeat and potentially kill other men in single combat represents a fundamental change in your identity and worldview. The school's physician monitors these changes with professional interest, noting improvements in strength, speed, and endurance, while also watching for signs of psychological problems that might affect performance or behavior. His observations become part of the detailed records the school maintains on each fighter, information that will eventually determine when you are ready for your first arena appearance and what type of opponents you will face. As your training progresses, you begin to understand the complex business relationships that govern the gladiatorial industry. Schools like the one where you live represent substantial investments by wealthy Romans who view arena fighting as entertainment, investment opportunity, and political tool. The fighters they own and train are valuable assets whose performance affects not only immediate profits, but also the long-term reputation and success of the entire enterprise. This understanding brings recognition that your survival and success serve the economic interests of people who view you as property, but it also reveals opportunities for advancement within the constraints of your situation. Successful gladiators can earn privileges, respect, and eventually freedom through excellence in their deadly profession. The path is dangerous and uncertain, but it offers more hope than most slaves can expect from their circumstances. Your first full contact sparring session provides a sobering introduction to the reality of what your training is preparing you to face. Fighting against Cassius with real weapons, though blunted for safety, demonstrates the enormous difference between practicing techniques against wooden posts and applying those skills against an intelligent opponent who is equally determined to win. The speed, violence, and complexity of actual combat prove far more demanding than any training exercise could simulate. The session also reveals areas where your skills need further development before you can be considered ready for arena competition. Your sword work shows promise, but lacks the polish of experienced fighters, while your shield handling needs improvement to provide adequate protection against skilled opponents. Most importantly, your ability to remain calm and think tactically during the chaos of combat requires additional development through more extensive sparring experience. But the sparring also demonstrates that the training is achieving its intended purpose. You are becoming a warrior capable of defending yourself and threatening opponents in ways that your blacksmith background never provided. The transformation from peaceful craftsman to professional fighter proceeds with mechanical efficiency, guided by instructors whose expertise has been proven through their own survival in the arena and their success in preparing others for similar challenges. As your first months at the Gladiator school near their end, you begin to anticipate the summons that will announce your readiness for actual arena competition. The prospect generates complex emotions: fear of death or serious injury, excitement about testing your skills against real opponents, and curiosity about how you will perform when the crowd's entertainment depends on your ability to fight and possibly kill another human being. The morning when Maximus finally announces that you are ready for the arena arrives without fanfare, delivered as part of the routine assignments that govern daily life at the Gladiator school. You have been training for 8 months now, your body transformed into something that would be unrecognizable to the village blacksmith you once were. Muscles developed through countless hours of weapons practice and conditioning exercises have given you the physique of a professional warrior, while the skills drilled into you by experienced instructors have created reflexes and capabilities that represent your only hope of surviving what lies ahead. The announcement comes during the morning meal, delivered in the matter-of-fact tone that Maximus uses for all business decisions regarding his gladiators. Marcus, you will fight in 3 days at the Circus Maximus during the games celebrating the Emperor's victory in Dacia. Your opponent will be another novice fighter, and the bout is scheduled for the afternoon program when the crowd is looking for entertainment, but not necessarily spectacular bloodshed. The casual nature of the announcement belies the significance of what you are hearing. Your first arena appearance will determine not only whether you live or die, but also how you are classified for future contests, and what opportunities might eventually become available for advancement within the brutal hierarchy of professional fighting. Success could lead to better treatment, more prestigious matches, and eventually the possibility of earning freedom through accumulated victories. Failure means death, with no opportunity to benefit from the skills and knowledge you have worked so hard to develop. The 3 days of preparation that follow the announcement pass with agonizing slowness, filled with final training sessions, equipment fittings, and the psychological preparation needed to face mortal combat for public entertainment. Your instructors focus on refining techniques and strategies rather than introducing new skills, understanding that confidence and precision matter more than complexity when facing a desperate opponent who has nothing to lose. Varro spends extra time working with you on the mental aspects of arena fighting, sharing insights gained through his own survival of multiple contests. The crowd becomes part of the fight, he explains, his scarred face serious with the weight of hard-earned wisdom. Their energy can lift you beyond normal capabilities, but it can also distract you from noticing an opponent's attack. Learn to use their noise as encouragement, while keeping your focus on the man trying to kill you. The weapons and armor you will use in your first contest represent the finest equipment available to gladiators of your classification. The gladius has been balanced specifically for your height and reach, its edge honed to razor sharpness, and its grip wrapped in leather that provides secure handling even when wet with sweat or blood. The shield, scutum, bears decorations that identify you as a fighter from Maximus's school while providing protection that could mean the difference between life and death. But perhaps most important is the helmet that will protect your head while limiting your vision and hearing in ways that require significant adjustment in fighting technique. The restricted field of view demands greater reliance on peripheral awareness and intuitive understanding of an opponent's position and intentions. Training with the helmet during the final preparation sessions helps develop the skills needed to fight effectively despite these limitations, but the real test will come when life depends on making split-second decisions based on incomplete information. The night before your first contest, sleep proves elusive despite the physical exhaustion that normally guarantees rest after intensive training days. Your mind races through possible scenarios, imagining different types of opponents and planning responses to various fighting styles you might encounter. The uncertainty about what tomorrow will bring creates anxiety that wars with the anticipation of finally testing your skills in the environment for which you have been preparing. Cassius, who fought his first arena contest 2 months earlier and survived to tell about it, offers advice based on his experience facing the reality of combat before thousands of spectators. The noise hits you like a physical force when you first enter the arena, he warns, his Thracian accent making the Latin words sound exotic and ominous. The crowd's roar can overwhelm your senses if you are not prepared for it. But once the fighting starts, everything else disappears, and it becomes just you and your opponent, exactly like our sparring sessions, but with sharper weapons. The morning of your first contest begins with the ritual preparations that transform gladiators from school property into arena entertainment. The ceremonial bathing removes the grime of training while symbolically preparing you for what may be your final day of life. The careful attention to grooming and appearance reflects the entertainment value that drives the entire gladiatorial industry. You must look like a warrior worthy of public attention, regardless of your actual experience or chances of survival. The meal provided before arena contests differs from normal training rations, emphasizing foods that provide quick energy without causing digestive problems during strenuous physical activity. Honey, bread, diluted wine, and small amounts of meat create a combination that maximizes performance while minimizing the risk of nausea or stomach cramps that could prove fatal during combat. The physicians who supervise this preparation understand that optimal physical condition represents the school's best investment in the valuable property about to risk destruction for public amusement. The journey from the Gladiator School to the Circus Maximus provides your first glimpse of Rome's arena district, where the entertainment industry that depends on your skills and blood has created an entire economic ecosystem. Weapons dealers, armor specialists, betting coordinators, and souvenir vendors create a marketplace that thrives on the violence about to unfold. The sight of ordinary citizens conducting business related to mortal combat demonstrates how completely Roman society has integrated organized killing into its concept of acceptable entertainment. The underground passages beneath the arena represent an engineering marvel that rivals Rome's military architecture in its complexity and functionality. Corridors, waiting areas, animal pens, and staging rooms create a hidden world where the preparations for public spectacle take place away from audience view. The sound of the crowd filtering down from above provides constant reminder of the thousands of people whose entertainment depends on your willingness to risk death for their amusement. Your first sight of the arena floor through the entrance tunnel creates an impact that no amount of description could have prepared you to experience. The vast oval of sand stretches away toward walls that rise toward seats filled with more people than you have seen in your entire life. The roar of conversation, cheering, and general excitement creates an atmosphere unlike anything in your previous experience, a sensory assault that threatens to overwhelm your ability to focus on the immediate task of survival. The preliminary ceremonies that precede actual combat provide time to adjust to the arena environment, while demonstrating the Roman genius for transforming violence into elaborate entertainment. Musicians, dancers, and ceremonial officials create pageantry that elevates gladiatorial contests above simple bloodshed to become something approaching religious ritual. The formal presentation of fighters to the crowd allows spectators to evaluate the merchandise they will watch perform, while giving gladiators their first taste of the attention that represents both reward and burden of their profession. When your name is announced and you step forward to acknowledge the crowd's response, the noise becomes a physical sensation that seems to penetrate every part of your body. Thousands of voices create a sound that exceeds anything you could have imagined, a collective expression of anticipation and bloodlust that both energizes and intimidates. The crowd's reaction to your appearance, generally positive, suggesting that your physical presence meets their expectations for entertaining combat, provides the first indication of how this contest might develop. Your opponent, when he is finally revealed, proves to be a young Egyptian whose background appears similar to your own, a recent captive being given his first opportunity to demonstrate arena potential. His nervousness is as apparent as your own, visible in the way he handles his weapons and the tension in his movements as he acknowledges the crowd's attention. The equality of your situations provides some comfort, knowing that you face someone whose experience and skill level match your own, rather than a veteran fighter whose survival of multiple contests would give him overwhelming advantages. The final preparations take place in full view of the spectators, creating additional pressure as every action is observed and evaluated by people who understand the nuances of gladiatorial combat. The checking of weapons and armor, the brief consultation with trainers, the ritual invocation of the gods, all of these provide opportunities for the crowd to assess the fighters and adjust their betting accordingly. The commercial aspect of the entertainment becomes apparent as odds are shouted throughout the stands and money changes hands based on evaluations of your relative chances for survival. When the signal is finally given to begin combat, the world narrows to focus exclusively on the young Egyptian who represents the only obstacle between you and continued existence. All the training, preparation, and psychological conditioning converge into this single moment when theoretical knowledge must become practical application under conditions where mistakes result in death rather than mere correction by instructors. The opening exchanges reveal that your opponent possesses skills comparable to your own, trained by instructors whose methods produce similar results, regardless of which school claims ownership of the fighters they develop. His sword work shows the same combination of competence and inexperience that characterizes your own abilities, while his shield handling demonstrates understanding of defensive principles without the polish that comes from extensive arena experience. But as the combat progresses, subtle differences in preparation and natural ability begin to affect the contest's development. Your background as a blacksmith provides advantages in strength and endurance that become apparent as the fight continues beyond the brief exchanges that characterize many gladiatorial contests. The months of intensive conditioning have built stamina that allows you to maintain effectiveness even as fatigue begins to affect your opponent's speed and precision. The crowd's reaction to the developing combat provides constant feedback about the entertainment value being generated by your struggle for survival. Their cheers for particularly skillful moves or dramatic exchanges remind you that this is performance as well as combat, requiring attention to style and spectacle even while fighting for your life. The Roman appetite for theatrical violence demands that gladiators provide entertainment value that justifies the expense and effort of organizing these contests. A crucial moment arrives when your opponent's exhaustion causes a momentary lapse in his guard, creating an opening that your training has prepared you to recognize and exploit. The thrust that follows represents the culmination of everything you have learned about sword work, delivered with precision and power that penetrates his defense to inflict a wound that decides the contest's outcome. The sensation of steel entering flesh provides brutal confirmation that your transformation from peaceful craftsman to killer is now complete. The crowd's roar as your opponent falls reflects their appreciation for combat that has provided the entertainment value they expected from this contest. But their attention now focuses on your response to victory, testing whether you possess the theatrical instincts that separate memorable gladiators from mere survivors. The moment requires a balance between acknowledging their appreciation and demonstrating the dignity that Romans admire in their entertainment. Your opponent, lying wounded but conscious on the arena sand, looks up at you with eyes that reflect acceptance of his fate. The decision about whether he lives or dies now rests with the crowd, whose reaction to his performance will determine whether mercy is appropriate or if the entertainment requires his death to provide a satisfying conclusion. The responsibility for another man's life weighs heavily, despite the artificial circumstances that have created this situation. The crowd's response, indicated through the traditional hand signals that communicate their verdict, calls for mercy in recognition of the Egyptian's courageous fighting, despite his defeat. The decision reflects their appreciation for entertainment that featured genuine skill and determination rather than one-sided slaughter, and it provides your first lesson in how arena politics can affect the outcomes of contests that appear to be decided purely by martial ability. Helping your defeated opponent leave the arena alive creates a bond that transcends the artificial hostility required during combat. The shared experience of surviving your first contest, even though only one of you achieved victory, establishes a connection that will influence your understanding of what it means to be a professional gladiator. The recognition that skill, luck, and crowd favor all play roles in determining who lives and who dies provides sobering insight into the uncertainties that will govern your future. The aftermath of victory brings rewards that partially compensate for the psychological cost of killing for entertainment. Better food, improved quarters, increased privileges within the school, and the respect of fellow gladiators represent tangible benefits that make success worthwhile despite the moral complexities involved. More importantly, the demonstration of arena potential opens possibilities for advancement that could eventually lead to the freedom that remains the ultimate goal of every fighter. But the victory also establishes expectations for future performance that create pressure to maintain the standards demonstrated in your first contest. The crowd's appreciation for your fighting style and the entertainment value you provided will influence the types of opponents and situations you face in subsequent appearances. Success creates opportunities, but also raises stakes that make future contests increasingly important for your long-term survival and advancement. The weeks following your first arena victory pass quickly as you return to training routines designed to build on the experience gained through actual combat. The lessons learned during your maiden contest about crowd psychology, opponent analysis, and performance under extreme pressure become integrated into preparation for future appearances. Each sparring session and conditioning exercise now carries the weight of proven relevance to survival in situations where theoretical knowledge must produce practical results. Your second arena appearance, scheduled for a month after your first victory, reflects the school's confidence in your proven abilities and crowd appeal. The opponent chosen for this contest represents a step up in difficulty, An experienced fighter whose survival of 3 previous contests demonstrates skills that exceed those of the novices typically matched against recent graduates from training programs. The challenge will test whether your initial success resulted from natural ability that can develop into genuine arena expertise, or if it represented fortunate circumstances unlikely to be repeated. The preparation for this more challenging contest requires adjustment of training methods to address the specific threats posed by experienced opponents. Advanced techniques that had been postponed until basic skills were mastered now become essential for survival against fighters who possess the knowledge and instincts that come from repeated exposure to mortal combat. The psychological preparation becomes equally important as you learn to cope with facing an opponent whose proven survival skills represent genuine danger rather than theoretical possibility. But the months of training and the experience gained through your first victory have created capabilities that extend far beyond what you possessed as a village blacksmith captured during a Roman raid. The combination of physical conditioning, weapons expertise, tactical knowledge, and arena experience has forged you into a professional warrior whose skills command respect from instructors, fellow gladiators, and the crowds who watch you fight. The transformation from slave to gladiator is complete, opening possibilities for advancement that seemed impossible when you first arrived at the school in chains. As you prepare for your second contest, you understand that you have found a path toward freedom that depends entirely on your ability to excel in humanity's most dangerous profession. Each victory brings you closer to the goal that motivates every gladiator, earning enough success and crowd favor to purchase your liberty through excellence in arena combat. The road is uncertain and fraught with mortal danger, but it offers hope that seemed impossible during the dark days following your capture and enslavement. The crowd that will watch your next contest expects entertainment that justifies their attendance and validates their investment in gladiatorial spectacle. Your responsibility extends beyond mere survival to include providing the theatrical violence that satisfies Roman appetites for dramatic combat. Success requires mastering both the martial skills needed to defeat dangerous opponents and the performance abilities that transform killing into art. Standing in the tunnel beneath the arena, listening to the crowds roar as they anticipate the violence about to unfold, you reflect on the journey that has brought you from Germanic village to Roman amphitheater. The path has required sacrifices and transformations that would have seemed impossible to contemplate just a year ago, but it has also revealed inner strengths and capabilities that might never have emerged under normal circumstances. You are no longer Marcus the blacksmith's son, but Marcus the gladiator, a professional warrior whose skills have been proven in mortal combat and whose future depends on continued excellence in the deadliest profession known to the Roman world. The arena awaits, and with it, the next step on a journey that could lead to freedom or death, but will definitely test every lesson learned through months of intensive preparation for this moment of truth.